I would like to introduce Dr. Carol Templeton. She is the principal of all the St. Joseph Catholic schools from the nursery through the high school. And I'm a parent of a student at St. Joe, and I can attest how thankful we are for Dr. Templeton. Dr. Templeton is the principal, as I said, of the schools and her St. Joseph Catholic Schools in Huntington. Her professional career spans over 20 years of educational experience as a teacher, department head, department of curriculum, director of curriculum and assessment, and administrator. Dr. Templeton has experience working in both public and private schools in England and in the United States. She completed her Bachelor of Education degree from Birmingham University, England, a Master's of Administrative Leadership, Curriculum Supervision, and Superintendent degree from Marshall University, West Virginia, and a doctorate degree in Education Leadership from Morehead State University in Kentucky. In addition to her administrative duties, Dr. Templeton serves on advanced ed, external, and internal review teams throughout the United States. Appointed by the Governor of West Virginia, Mr. J. Manchin, in 2005, Dr. Templeton served as Vice Chair to the Commission to the Arts for the state of West Virginia until 2017. As a published author of The Value of Augmented Reality within the Field of Education, Dr. Templeton was also awarded Doctoral Student of the Year from Morehead State University in 2018. Dr. Templeton has two boys, Liam and Lucas, who are students at St. Joseph Catholic School. So Dr. Templeton, welcome, and we're so happy to have you this morning. And this is a very relevant topic, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Elizabeth. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, whoever the host is needs to give me the ability to share my screen. It says
Eric.
Okay.
All right, you should have.
Okay. Okay, can you see my presentation up there? Okay, there's a slight delay, so we'll do our best with that. All right, well, thank you, Elizabeth, for introducing me. I will go through the presentation. I'll try not to bore you too much. It's very dear to my heart, being the principal of St. Joe, so I get very passionate about what I do. If you have any questions, just ask me. I'd be more than happy to answer them. As you can probably tell, I'm not from around here originally. I have been living in the United States for almost 20 years. I moved from England, where I've lived in many different, from Birmingham, London, Manchester, and then I moved to Atlanta. I worked in the Atlanta public school system, and then I made my way up to West Virginia. And I've been here now for almost 20 years, and I love it. So as the principal, I am pre-K through 12th grade, and I'm going to just talk a little bit about the journey that it has been for St. Joe during the pandemic. A lot of schools, obviously, we're all going through this, organizations, but this is just a snapshot of our journey. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the challenges, the highlights, etc., of what we experienced as I'm going to say as a family. We think ourselves as a family here at St. Joe. So I'm going to go a little bit about what life or what school looked like before COVID, how we transitioned through the COVID period, which was specifically starting from March 13th. And I'll never forget that day. That was the last day that we were in session before all this happened. And then I'm going to go over a little bit about what it looks like now. What does our schools look like with the COVID, knowing that it's still here, very much here, and it has really created a paradigm shift in education. Some of it for the good, and some of it obviously is still bringing some challenges. So a little bit about pre-COVID. As I said, you know, I've been here almost 20 years, but I really have learned one thing, whether you're in England or in America or whatever country, we're always on this constant pursuit for excellence. We want to have continuous improvement. And from all my studies, I can tell you that the American educational system has tried to revamp itself over and over again. There's several federal acts that have been put into place under different presidential administrations, and they all tried to leave a footprint. They all tried to do something a little different. They have different approaches, from the Higher Education Act, Secondary Act, No Child Left Behind Act, Race to the Top Act. They're all federal initiatives, and they're all designed to try to improve our educational system. So that has always been ongoing. Over time, as I said, we're always trying to focus on what is going to make our educational system better. And I can tell you that there is not one size that fits all. We have the federal level that have their rules, etc. We then come down to the state level, county level. I can tell you as a principal of a private school, private Catholic school, we have the ability to move very quickly. We can make decisions with good research, but we can move very fast. That is not the case, even at the county level and state level. So that is a great freedom for us. We can make decisions without all of the red tape. Over time, though, we have tried to consider other alternatives, options when it comes to learning and what is best for learning. And over the years, there's all these fads or new words that come out. Collaborative learning, synchronous learning, asynchronous, we got blended learning, remote learning, and they're all different, slightly different perspectives as far as what best strategies we can use to educate our children. So basically I made a bit of a list there. Distance learning at the collegiate level has always been there, it's been there a long time, and it's nothing new. But when you're talking about kindergarten students or primary levels or intermediate grades, the concept of synchronous or asynchronous learning is very different. And it needs to be considered differently than that at the collegiate level, where students are more independent, more driven, etc. They have the skill set in order to organize themselves. But when you're talking about little children, it's a completely different beast to deal with. So these are some of the things that we've tried to implement over the time. The use of technology. I cannot stress this enough. Technology is here to stay, and it is a fundamental part of our educational system and how we teach students. It doesn't replace the teacher, but how we convey knowledge, content, material, it's so important. So proud of my teachers that we have been very tech savvy here at St. Joe, even before the pandemic. And I think that really lends itself to how we were able to shift very, very quickly when the pandemic came in. We were able to shift our entire program, pre-K through 12, very quickly because we already had the skill set. The arrival of the pandemic. So here it comes. We had no idea really what this means. And to think that we're still in it 10 months later, it is really hard to kind of comprehend. But one of the things that it really did for us, over time we talk about different initiatives, different programs. What about this? What about that? When the pandemic arrived, it was a matter of we have to move. We have to adopt. We have to adapt. We have to change. What does our educational program look like now? And it wasn't a matter of, well, we don't want to do it. We had to do it. It really forced us to take a good look at our educational system and decide what is best, to shift it to a platform where learning is continuous, that there is no an element where it's stopped or that learning doesn't continue. It had to continue on. One of the things that we did realize, as everybody is, that COVID is a wraparound virus. It didn't stay for the summer and then disappear. As winter came, it's still here. I really see it more of a virus that ebbs and flows with our holidays, Thanksgiving, with Christmas, etc. It spikes when community gatherings occur. So knowing that it's wrapped round, it's here to stay, we really had to make changes. And that's what we did when we looked at our operations, we looked at our teaching and our learning holistically. We wanted to see what would be best for the school. So what did we do? When March 13th arrived, we had a lot of work to do. And I can tell you that the sheer number of hours that I sat in a chair, I turned my dining room into an office. The sheer number of hours was just completely overwhelming. We would sit with our core group, with our departments, with our teachers for hours and hours upon hours, day after day, trying to make the best decisions to make when we are shifting pre-K through 12 to a virtual platform. So we departmentalized. What happens or what takes place in pre-K is completely different to high school. The needs of middle school is completely different to primary grades. So I departmentalized my school. I had to break it down. And then I met with each group of these teachers, these educators, to see what would work best for them. We considered our resources. What resources do we currently have? Where's the expertise? It was really eye-opening to see some teachers who were more proficient in technology, and they were able to step forward and really, really help with the transition. We had to look at our technology infrastructure. What does it look like? We're very lucky that we actually have one-to-one devices from first grade up all the way through 12th grade. That was already in place. Accessibility to technology and the internet. This has probably been one of the biggest frustrations that we've had, is the internet. You can have the best car, but if you don't have the gas to drive it, you're not going anywhere. And so we have all of these devices, we've got all these awesome software programs, but it's the internet that drives how successful your virtual platforms are going to be. We currently have Comcast here at school, and I have bumped our internet at both sides of the streets for both schools all the way up to max. We are maxed out, and still at that maximum level, it's still not enough. Hopefully when the fiber comes in for the city, it will help. But in order to make it successful without any glitches, we then had to invest in hotspots. We basically have hotspots throughout the entire school on floors because we cannot rely on internet. It is not a reliable source. So we have these hotspots. The teachers come and collect them every morning. They're distributed across the floors in order to make sure that we can continue to connect, because we still have a lot of students who are virtual, quarantining, whatever it may be, and then we've also got in person. We had to do a lot of training. I mean, we had to move quickly, and in order to get everything up and running, we looked at our timeline and we literally gave ourselves a 2-week window. We had a 2-week window to shift, as I put there, 4 educational entities to a virtual platform. It was like moving a mountain, but we did it. We had the willpower, we had the knowledge, we had the expertise, we were able to do it. And as I mentioned there, every grade band had a different approach. As I said, what happens at the high school was very different from preschool. So the COVID window, what did we do during March and August? We did a ton of meetings. I will say it was probably one of the most challenging times of my profession. I don't recall ever going to class, in all of my studies, I don't recall a class that was how to handle school during the pandemic. We never had one of those. It was a matter of, you've got to move on your feet and you've got to figure out how's this going to work and what resources do you have to make it work. So we had tons of virtual meetings. We met as core groups. I identified specific teams of people that were charged with responsibility to focus on, whether it's technology, whether it's handbooks, whether it's the safety precautionary measures, whether it's checking in with CDC, whether it's the DHHR. We had groups of people allocated to go out and research and bring the information back. And one of the things I'm really proud about as well is that our core groups basically consisted of 4 or 5 people. And so when you look at Cabell County, for instance, how many people did they have on their team to put together their reentry plans, their handbooks, their communication, their media? How many people did they have? They had tons of people and resources. We were very limited, but we pulled it off. We created virtual handbooks. We tried to think about every scenario. And of course, it's infinity. We can't think of everything, but we put everything we could think of in virtual handbooks, and we segmented it: a preschool handbook, a K-8 handbook, a high school handbook. We tried to think, what does this virtual school look like? We felt and we thought it was very important that the children meet on a regular basis. We wanted to keep our lessons moving. It wasn't a matter of, we're going to give you a packet on a Monday and you return it on Friday. To us, that's not good enough. We have to connect with our students. We have to be virtually present. We've got to continue with the learning. We problem solved, we brainstormed, we did so much. We tried to consider all different policies and procedures. Then we looked at technology platforms. We rely very heavily on Google, and Google Education, Google Classroom, Google Meets is our primary source when it comes to communicating with our students, from posting assignments, communicating between teacher and students, and our virtual meets as well. We also utilize Zoom, more so at the high school. Younger grades, we utilize Seesaw. There's all these wonderful platforms that just really were born out of the pandemic to help schools continue their. Khan Academy, very, very, very useful, and we continue to embed Khan Academy within our subjects. Khan Academy is specifically more at the high school level when you're talking about AEP classes, dual credits, etc. Khan Academy has been very beneficial. We also wanted to get an understanding of teacher and student expectations. Just because we're virtual doesn't mean that we're part-time. And so the teachers had to continue with their lesson plans. They had to continue with the assessment of their students. And also for student expectations, they still had to be present. The virtual environment did bring challenges with regards to making sure that students were in attendance. Assessment looks very, very different, but we wanted to make sure we hold ourselves to a higher standard. Assessment of work, we really needed to look at it as a different form of assessing how students are understanding content. Taking a traditional means of an assessment tool does not work in the virtual environment. We had to become creative, we had to become more savvy. And so whether that's through projects, student-based projects, etc., one-on-one with teachers, we had to look at it differently. Parental involvement was key, and Elizabeth will know this as well. We couldn't do any of this without the support of the parents. They had to be on board with this, understanding the restrictions, the boundaries that we have. We had to have parental support to make this work. And I'm proud to say, I really do feel that St. Joe has always has supported parents, but it all comes down as well to communication, trying to get out information to parents as far as this is how we're going to conduct education at St. Joe. So a lot of support, a lot of communication, a lot of involvement, but we made it work. So what did virtual school look like? To me, a little bit like Groundhog Day. It was, you would get up and you would pretty much do the same thing. It might be a different lesson, different content. And I will always remember on your cell phones, I would have all of these reminders that would pop up, but the sound of notifications of meetings that I get on my cell phone almost makes me shake, because it's just this memory of being in a virtual environment. But it's almost like the same thing over and over again. We definitely felt the loss of social and emotional connections. And one of the things that we tried to do, even if though it was virtual, was try to keep that connection with our family. You see a car there with one of our students on top of the car. We had a parade, and it was fantastic to see so many of our students turn out. They decorated their vehicles, and we shut down 6th Avenue. All the teachers were on one side, and we had a wonderful parade, and it really just showed the commitment and sense of family we have here at St. Joe. We continued with social media, very, very important. One of the things we also noted is the difference in home support. So we had a lot of parents at home. They were also working virtually, but maybe there's only one computer at home, and you've got the parent, one parent trying to utilize the computer. What about the student? So we had to push out technology. We had to get devices into the hands of our students. We had parents that continue to go to work. Maybe they're in the healthcare. And so you've got students left at home, maybe with a babysitter, that didn't have the support necessarily to continue with their studies. And we saw this as a big concern. So the ability for children to continue learning in one house might be completely different from the other. We had to reevaluate annual events. and we still are today. You know, even planning high school graduation for this upcoming May, I don't know what it's going to look like right now. Hopefully with the vaccinations coming out, things will somewhat get back to normal, but we still have to reevaluate our in-person events. We have had to cancel our carnival. We've had to cancel a lot of our social events, which is a shame. And some of them are big fundraisers. So that has hit us financially too. We really worked on professional development. And I'm proud to say that all of our teachers, we met sometimes 3-4 times a week outside of the lessons, and we looked for research. And we brought tons of information back to us in our professional learning communities. We shared ideas, we networked, and we really, really, really built up our professional development. It didn't stop a beat. We poured countless hours of professional development looking for new ways to teach content, new platforms, how to deal with mental health. That's a huge thing right now, mental health. We developed great networking opportunities. And it's really interesting that although we went virtual and we had to all hibernate in our house, it really opened up the doors to network with other people. And we had so many diocesan meetings. I've never connected with the other principals in the state as much as I have now. In our Catholic schools, we meet on a regular basis, and we actually continued our virtual meetings even though we've come out of that COVID period of time to the end of May, but we continue with our meetings. The teachers have networked. They're in departments and they're networking with teachers maybe from Morgantown, maybe from Clarksburg, Wheeling. So it's been a really, really beneficial opportunity for us to reach out and get ideas from other people. I always say with teachers, the best thing you can do is get outside of your classroom, go visit other teachers, go and observe. We have the wealth and the knowledge already here on site. You just got to look beyond your classroom. I would say one of the wonderful things for me with regards to virtual learning was that I could move into any classroom at the speed of light, and I didn't have to move from my chair. I could literally bounce in and out of Zooms, Google Meets, so quickly. I was in many or countless Zoom meetings, virtual lessons all throughout the day. And I know that Elizabeth, you can attest to the fact I popped in to see Elizabeth on several occasions. So, and I'm still doing that now with the high school who are virtual. I'm hoping they'll be back at some point, but I pop in every day to pretty much every lesson and I don't move from my seat. So that has been a huge time saver for me. We did spend, and we still continue to look at what has worked, what doesn't, and we continuously revamp. It's that continuous model of improvement. We're always focused on it. We don't know the answer to everything, but as long as we continue to analyze, we know that we're going down the right path. We have been very blessed that even though schools are out virtually, our school, our pre-K through 8, that is, has not skipped a beat. We have been in person, and that is because we can operate on a critical childcare license, and that is through the DHHR. And I can tell you that the DHHR at the state level wants these centers to be open because we provide a very valuable service to those people who are deemed essential workers, particularly the healthcare workers. These parents with children, they need to be in the hospitals taking care of the sick, and being able to operate on a critical childcare license has enabled to keep these people in employment and their kids in school. And also I will say that for those children that need extra help, extra support, being virtual is okay, but being in person is better. And so we have children that do need extra support with their learning, and we want them to be in our school system so that we can continue with interventions. Okay, so during the pandemic, as we approached the new year, people have this misconception that educators are off for the summer. Generally, teachers are, but principals are not. So I work all the way through throughout the year. For my summer, though, this year was incredibly busy. There was no vacations or anything like that. We had to look at the new academic year. What does it look like? We've kind of got through that COVID period, and then realizing that COVID is still here, we needed to come up with every possible plan when we open up for the new year. So what did we do? We realized that it's going to be very different. It's going to be different. We laid plans over the summer. We came up with re-entry plans, re-entry handbooks. We came up with policies, and then we came up with as many precautionary safety measures as possible. And I can tell you that the state, from the governor level all the way down, has been fantastic to ensure that we as a private sector received our CARES Act funding, so that we were able to buy trifold screens for our students. We were able to purchase as many masks as you would like, gloves, hand sanitizer stations. We were able to put automatic faucets and toilets in. And we were on such a time crunch, but we had to get everything in before school started, and that was September 8th. We put signage all the way around the school and outside school indicating social distancing requirements. But I have to say, it was very tight, but we accomplished it, and that was thanks to the governor. We were, and the county, I will say, we were one of very few counties in West Virginia that received our CARES Act funding at this time. And we're very, very, very appreciative to the governor as well that the GEAR funding has now been allocated as well to the private sector. So those funds will also be released to help schools keep operating and to cover costs that were unforeseen. For example, the cost of the hotspots. Hotspots and data is very expensive, but the governor funds will help to cover all of that. We are working within the constraints of CDC. CDC updates on a regular basis. DHHR, we live by DHHR, and that's our license. Cabell County Health Department, they were on speed dial. As soon as people were exposed or tested positive, having that connection with health department was so important. And I have to say, Cabell County's health department is phenomenal. They're very busy, certainly overworked, but they were able to get back to me very quickly if I had questions or we had issues of quarantining. And then the Diocese of Wheeling Charleston. So we have all these entities that we have to try to work with them. So St. Joe today, we have many programming options, and Elizabeth will know this. We have remote, and it's changeable. We have children that come in and out based on if they have to quarantine. We have that 5-day in person, and that's what most of our families want. They want their children to be in person, but understanding that there's that quarantining, or some families just choose to keep their kids out. Maybe they have a health issue or something or concern at home. So we have that ability to offer a blended model. Quarantining is becoming our new way of living. But we continue to provide synchronous learning. And I'm very proud that our teachers, and this really goes from 3rd grade all the way through 12th grade, the lessons are synchronous. So they are going on at real time. The teachers are teaching in class with their in-person students, and they're also talking to their virtual students. The younger children, our approach is a little bit more asynchronous. Just because of the age of the students, but we are still connecting with our virtual students every day. They start with prayer in the morning, they start with the pledge, they start with the mission, and then they get into their virtual lessons. So it's continuous. We've had to be very flexible, very, very flexible with our parents' attendance. All of that had to change. It is a complete paradigm shift, and I mentioned that before, but one of the things that we've learned is that there are no more boundaries with education. We actually have children who are not even in this country who are attending St. Joe. I've got children in China, I've got children in Canada, I've got children in Turkey, I've got children that will leave and go to visit family, etc., but they're all still attending virtually. Even our children in China, and they are 10 hours ahead, they're holding their classes at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, but they're still St. Joe kids. So it's been amazing to know that, yes, they left to go back to their home countries, but they're still continuing with St. Joe learning. One of the things that we have been able to continue with is virtual faculty meetings. We do almost every day. I have virtual faculty meetings and parent meetings. We don't want to miss a beat. We don't want to miss that connection with our parents. And so we continue with virtual meetings. We schedule them. We keep our parents abreast of what's going on. And one of the things that this pandemic has really done is build unity with St. Joe, with our faculty and staff. So the results have been, yes, it's forced us to think differently, look at things from a different perspective, see things, think more critically, creatively as well. We had to modernize our approach to teaching. You cannot take a traditional teaching model, learning model, and put it in a pandemic. It just doesn't work. So we had to break away from the norms. From the majority of our teachers, it was very much welcomed. This is an opportunity to take on new challenges, new programs, see things differently. And for some, we just had to kind of pull along a little bit. But for the most part, this was an exciting opportunity to really look at your program, decide how you can make it better. And that's one of the things that we've done with the professional developments, et cetera, is find new ways to teach content, concepts, et cetera, how to assess differently as well. Moving beyond authentic assessments, teacher-driven, project-based, et cetera, group-based, personalized learning. And that was a big focus for our virtual platform, personalize it to meet the individual's needs of your students. We continue to seek for new ideas. We worked as a team, not in isolation. That was very important. And we embraced the change. That's an important thing. One of the things that we also wanted to maintain is our commitment to outreach and stewardship. It's part of our mission at St. Joe, and we did not want that to go by the wayside. We still continue with our projects, whether it's raising money, whether it's bringing in gifts at Christmas for those children in need. And you see a picture there of high school students. They're actually putting together candy for our elementary students for Halloween. We also wanted to maintain our high standards when it comes to technology. And one of the things we've been able to push out at the high school level is augmented reality. So our advanced placement students, our dual credit students, they're working at very advanced classes, have to work on labs, but they haven't been able to do that because they're not in person. So we've been able to push out virtual learning, a lot of it through Z-Space, but augmented reality to help teach advanced concept that the teachers can work on and the students can work on at the same time with virtual learning. So that's been something we really wanted to continue and not miss out on. The challenges. Overall, the technology, I can tell you this, does not replace the teacher. Technology is just a means to convey material. As I've mentioned before, broadband infrastructure, that has become a real problem. We have technology glitches. That's a reality. Virtual learning is no substitute for in-person learning. That is key. Virtual learning is great to a certain extent, and it has its pros, but in-person learning is essential. Mental health as well. Having your teachers here, having your students here, and I can see at the high school as well, the element of communication with students is key for in-person. To support your different learners, as I mentioned, we have students that do have specific needs. In-person learning is a must in order for us to continue with their individualized instruction. Challenges as far as teacher support, we had to increase proficiency and technology expertise. And for the most part, the teachers have moved along nicely with it. It's amazing to see some of the creative lessons that some of the teachers have come out with. And it's all about sharing your expertise with the other teachers to get them on board. Provide equal access. I think as a school system, we have done a great job to ensure that all students have access to technology. If they need any resources, the parent can pick it up at the front door. We need to make sure that we get these devices at home so that every student can connect. Maintaining academic integrity and property. We wanted to make sure that we do not lower our standards. When we went into the COVID, we did not back down on academic standards. We kept moving forward with assessment. We didn't drop GPAs. We continued as if we were in person. And that, I think, is a testament to Catholic schools. Of course, athletic challenges. A lot of our winter sports have yet to start. Hopefully they will be set to start February 14th and competitions in March, and pending any changes. Pandemic fatigue. I think we can say this with everybody. We're tired of the pandemic. We want to move on from it. We want a solution. We want to get those vaccinations. We want to be able to do more of what we did before. And then for me as a principal, I basically operate week by a color-coded map. Now, of course, the governor's thrown the map away and we just use the DHHR just for high school. All schools are set to come back next week, pending the county decisions. But for me, every Saturday, 5 o'clock, that's how I live my, my life, to see what does it look like this week. And then I would push that information out to the teachers. Some of these points here are very important. The impact of COVID, how has it impacted education? I've called this the COVID slide. So you're probably familiar with the summer slide where students may fall back academically during the summer months, summer weeks, the COVID slide. We are seeing students that have actually come now from different schools who have been out since March, and the academic gap between them and those students in St. Joe who continued with their education since March is huge. They have missed instructional minutes that they will never be able to get back. We've actually had to create extra math classes because the students coming in are at a much lower level. They haven't mastered the concepts. They haven't been exposed to the concepts. So that is a huge concern. As the governor stated, one out of 3 public school students are failing a core subject. That is really worrying. And you know, obviously that's one of the reasons they want to get kids back into school. The gap, as I said, it's widening. And I think we're going to see a reduction in academic expectations. We already know, for instance, the College Board has reduced the number of chapters that students need to cover for AP classes for their tests. So we're already lowering academic standards. At St. Joe, though, we've continued. We've not missed anything. We're getting through the content just as if we were in school. We have worked to complete and get through our curriculum. I would say, that this is just my opinion, that we're going to see a widening of the achievement gap between peers on a global level. When you start looking at those countries that did go back into school, that felt that school was very important, and those countries that kept students out. I think it's going to be evident even years from now. The equality and accessibility of academic programs and resources. At St. Joe, we try to make sure that it is even for all of our students, but that's not the case. Even in West Virginia, where you look at those rural areas, you know, do students have access to the internet? Do they have devices, etc.? So I think that there's going to be a shift and a difference when it comes to academic levels. And of course, the problems that we have is everyone has a different opinion. So when you're from the country level, federal level, to state level, national level, etc., everyone has a different opinion on what needs to be done, which we can see now. I believe Cabell County are having their first meeting this evening regarding if they should return in person. Just a couple of statistics. With the impact of COVID, I ran some numbers. The number of faculty, and this is pre-K through 12, that actually were diagnosed positive or had the diagnosis of being positive with COVID was 4%. Only 4% of our faculty had COVID up to this point, and that was from March up until now, only 4%. But 43% of our faculty at some time had to quarantine. That's the major challenge. quarantining. I have teachers in and out. I have to find coverage. And there was actually a period of time where I had to close 3 grade levels because I didn't have the faculty. So my point about this, it's not necessarily the COVID, it's the quarantining that has been the major challenge. As you can see, there's a picture of a couple of our staff members. They're getting vaccinated now. So that is good news, and hopefully that will continue for the rest of us. One of the things I'll say, though, is that with COVID, we still don't know everything. It's the unknown that we're still dealing with. As far as our school, we have a holistic approach from 6 weeks of age through 12th grade. We're very proud of ourselves that we focus on educating the whole child, the academics, the physical, emotional, social, etc. That's our main focus here at St. Joe. We are Catholic, and the word Catholic means universal. We are accepting of everybody. With that, though, we're very diverse in our student body. We have 38 nationalities represented here, every major religion of the world as well. We are very proud that we have high academic excellence. And that's what people are paying for. They're paying a premium to send their children to St. Joe because of our standards and our protected learning environment. We have our curriculum is rigorous, we have high expectations, and we don't miss a beat. We have a lot of students that need differentiated support. We provide it, we look at our resources, and we do our very best to reach out to those students that need just a little extra support. We're accessible, we're open to everyone, but we do try to be very fluid, flexible. Despite the current climate, we are able to move at lightning speed compared to most organizations. And then just to finish up, we have, as of today, pre-K through 8 has been in-person learning for 79 days and 6 virtual. 9th through 12th grade have, they've been in person 55 days with 30 virtual. So slightly a little different. When you compare that to the public sector, we've been in session 48% more than the public sector. And so when you go back to instructional minutes, I think that speaks volumes. Any questions? Elizabeth, you're still muted.
I know that with, my daughter's at St. Joe, and she is one that has been fortunate enough to be in person with the critical care license because she is dyslexic and she needs the support that she gets at school. And that's actually, it's just worked out really well. And I just, I know that there's a big debate with the county public school system. The governor wants all the children back in school, and the parents are upset. The teachers are upset because I think everyone's going to, come down with COVID. And I just think that it's working. It can work. I had Dr. Alan Young told me when COVID first hit that children have such a minuscule, there's the word, chance of getting COVID. And, St. Joe is just a perfect example of how you can make it work. Abigail goes to school every day. She wears a mask. Only if they're at their desk and not in eating can they remove the mask. They even have to wear it on the playground because it's hard for children not to group together. But she goes to school happy. I have bought her a plethora of masks from which to choose. And I tell her, take 2 or 3 or 4 each day so you can change them out. Of course, we wash them. But just, find what's comfortable, find what works. They have the plexiglass shield that they carry from class to class. So it is working, and I just wish that, and I don't think we have any more resources than other schools. We don't have the budgets that, the county gets from the state, but we're making it work. And I'm thankful for St. Joe. And I just think Dr. Templeton has, and as a parent, when COVID hit, we were all like, what is happening? And we were told, I think at noon on that Friday, that school was closing. And the next week was very, very difficult. I got sent home, Abigail was home. And it just, things happened so quickly. The school didn't have a chance really to put things in place. And I remember my husband emailed Dr. Templeton one night, like, we can't get this done, the homework in by 3. And she said, I can't get it done. I've got 2 boys. And then the next week was our scheduled spring break. And we actually got spring break. But the school didn't. We did, but not the faculty and staff at St. Joe. And they had to have worked around the clock, because the next week when we came back, it was like you'd snapped your finger. And I know that it didn't happen that quickly or easily, but things were so well organized. And I remember my husband coming home one day from work and said, the homework's not done. I said, I'm working from home.
Elizabeth, we need to take down the screen share,
Oh, yes.
try and put up the community.
There we go. But anyway, so that next week, things just fell into place. And my daughter would get up every morning. They had to be up by 9 and in school. And she would look at what she had to do that day. And she was just, the children were in school virtually. They met with their teachers. It wasn't like Dr. Templeton said, we didn't get packets. We got school. We got in school learning virtually. And I'm thankful. I'm thankful that I don't believe that, that personally speaking, that my daughter has had a slide. I think that she's right where she needs to be. I think she finished 5th grade last year. I think that everything that she was supposed to have learned, that she did learn. And I'm very thankful for our school. And I see on Facebook where a lot of parents there's just a lot of debate going on right now. And I just wish they would come and talk to Dr. Templeton and see what works, because I'm confident with my daughter going to school every day. I can work from home. I'm not essential. My husband's considered essential. My employer would allow me to work from home if she weren't able to be in school, but I'm thankful that she is in school, because that's where she wants to be. She wants to be at school.
Well, I will say this as well, Elizabeth, is that for us, it really didn't change. We come to work every day. We still put our clothes on. We still try to look professional. Not one of my faculty members were concerned about coming back, in terms of the fact that they felt comfortable that we have a lot of safety measures in place. Teachers have to stay in their pods. They're not to just wander around the school. We've limited cross-contamination. But one of the things we've also found or realized is the number of other illnesses that we normally see at this time of the year is almost non-existent.
No, I know.
Non-existent. So I would say that putting your child in school, in an environment for 8 hours where it is managed, it is safe, as long as your safety precautions are in place, then it's the safest place. It's the community spread that's the problem. And so I look at my high school students, and while they're virtual, do you think that they're all in their houses by themselves, or do you think they're out mingling as well? I think that to go virtual, it increases community spread. If you can put your kids in school, you're containing the environment that they're in. And we have noticed a huge difference that I cannot tell you anyone that I know of that's had the flu, has had all these viruses that run through preschool has been non-existent. So wearing your mask has definitely helped, but the safest place to put your kids is in school.
It is. And you're right. We haven't had the illnesses.
Well, thank you, Dr. Templeton, because I think it's been a really interesting presentation, and it sounds like St. Joe's done a wonderful job, but I see a real difference between the public schools and a small private school, whether it be St. Joe's or any other well-managed small private school. You have probably a much more homogeneous group of parents, because they've already made the decision they want their children at that kind of a school. They're more involved. When you have a large public school system, you run the gambit from parents who are utterly involved to those who have so many problems they will never be involved. And so there's a lot of things that cannot be controlled as easily in a large public school system. I think that's the big concern. How do we get them to control what they need to control? And I think they're working on it. And some school systems have done it in other communities, other cities. They seem to do it better with elementary up through middle. High school, that's sort of a grab bag. You don't know what you're getting. But I think the kids do want to go back to school. Never have I seen so many kids saying, I want to go to school. You know, most kids used to wake up and say, it's cold. Can I have a snow day? Can I stay home? They're saying, can I get out of here? So that's a very good sign. And I'll be anxious to see him go back. But as far as not seeing the other illnesses, I mean, that's not a surprise because of the way we're living. I mean, if we continue with the masks, if we continue with hand washing, we probably can cut down a lot of those transmissible diseases, especially in the school system. We were always impressed when we were in Asia, noticing all the kids wearing masks. And adults wearing masks. It's just sort of a normal thing. If you feel sick, been with somebody who's sick or whatever, or there's sickness, you wear a mask. So we'll have to see how long that lasts. But thank you for your information today.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I will add this, that 2009 was a big year for children born in this area. And Abigail's classrooms were always quite large. We had upwards of about 23 to 24 at least in kind of smaller classrooms. And as a parent, I was very concerned about her grade. There's no way that they could have social distanced. And so what did St. Joe do? And again, we don't have tons of resources. We have to raise money. They opened up another grade. So we have three sixth grades. And as a parent, I'm like, I was so relieved. We went to what you think of in a private school, smaller classrooms, and you know, they found the space, they found the staff to make it work. So there's been challenges. So I am a champion for 2 students at Explorer Academy. So I get on with them once a week, and one is in 1st grade and one is in 5th grade. And I'm going to say that they're 2 little girls. They're just delightful, but they seem lost. They seem lost by being at home. I have difficulty engaging them. We can't talk about school. I try to find out what do you like in school. And Explorer has this program for students just to give them the extra support that they might not get at home. And I'm just someone to talk to them, connect with them, engage them. And and I've only met with them a couple of times since the school year has started, since the Christmas break. But my thought is they just seem lost, like they're just not engaged. And I hope and I pray that all students can get back to school safely, because that's where they need to be in school.
Well, and I can only speak really for St. Joe. We are fortunate that we can make decisions very quickly, as I mentioned. And yes, when you think about school systems on a district level, it's more complex. It really is. They do have more manpower, they do have more funding, etc. But for us here at St. Joe, we wanted to make sure that we maintain the integrity of our educational program, and to ensure that it's worth the money that our parents are paying, but also to ensure that our students continue with their learning. And so for us, we wanted to be in person. That was very important to us. And we wanted to make sure that we utilize all the resources that we have and our personnel to ensure that our program is still of high caliber. That was very, very, very important to us, and it still is. And that's the motto that we go by. You know, we want to continue with a very high quality program. Linda, you know that because you've worked at Fatima as well. But we hold ourselves to higher standards. But I can only talk about our program. It's been very successful. There's been glitches along the way, but hey, that's life. You know, you just got to roll with it.
Well, but it has worked, and so I just hope that we all want this to be gone. This virus, this pandemic. It's been hard. As a family, we've made the decision not to travel, not to get together in large groups, not to socialize in large groups, and so far we've stayed healthy. You know, your kids come home and they tell you things, and Abigail told us about one family, and all 4 of them, two children and parents got COVID. Thankfully, they got well, And so I know that different children have had to come and go at St. Joe because they've been exposed or they were exposed but it has worked. It has worked. But I know that COVID's been around St. Joe. I'm not saying that we've never had one case or that a student or a teacher hasn't had COVID or been exposed. But all you can do is try your best. And
Well, I would say the first time somebody called and said that they've been exposed, it's like alarm bells go off. Oh my goodness, what are we going to do?
Yep.
Today, it's like, all right, this is what you do.
Yeah,
Quarantine.
yeah,
Blah,
yeah.
blah, blah. And so it becomes just a way of life, and you're not panicked anymore. And for the most part, our St. Joe community that have tested positive, they've come through the virus with mild symptoms. I can only think of one that really had some more complications with it. But for the most part, our St. Joe community has really just, rode the wave with COVID. But as a principal now, when somebody comes to me and says, I've been exposed, or my mom has it, or this, or my dad or grandparents, it's a matter of, okay, these are the protocols, and you move on. We don't.
So were the faculty, and Dr. Muffson, you might come in on this one. So here at Marshall, we are getting vaccinated, and I signed up for like late January, early February, because I want to make sure that it's okay. But so are your faculty excited to get has everyone signed up to get the vaccine that can? And Dr. Muffson, maybe you might touch on the safety of the vaccines.
There you go.
Well, thank you. I'll say just a few words. Both companies had lots of experience, both Pfizer and Moderna had previous experience in using the genomic piece of the virus in order to construct a vaccine. In fact, Moderna had been working on it for the Ebola vaccine very hard. And as soon as coronavirus came along, they switched all their scientists onto coronavirus alone. And that saved months and months of time. So the vaccine came out pretty quickly. Now, when you give the vaccine to 50 people in a phase 1 test of its capability of producing antibody, then the likelihood is that you don't have a large enough population to discover any adverse reactions. But as you increase the number of people immunized with the vaccine, then the small percent of adverse reactions show up in a few people, and that's been the case for these vaccines and other vaccines in the past. The vaccine is still safe. I have taken my first shot. I'm going to get my second shot in a week, and Dee Dee has had her first shot, and we'll get her second shot in a few weeks. And we had very little side effects from it. That's always dependent upon individuals to determine how much of the side effect they'll get. I think older people get less local side effects than younger people do from the vaccine, but there are a great many people who get the vaccine and have no side effects. It produces a lot of antibody. And there are some new reports as we learn more about the use of these vaccines that antibody may be present for more than 2 years. So that if we think about needing a second shot, we're putting the time between initial immunization with the vaccine and a subsequent follow-up shot more than 2 years. And if we can provide more proof of this as time goes on. So the bottom line is, I think the vaccine is safe. The first opportunity I had to get the vaccine, I took it. There were bunches of people there. Mountain Health Network has published for the physicians a little update sheet, and it shows that thousands have gotten the vaccine already in the Mountain Health Network. And I think that's a good example of physicians taking the vaccine themselves.
Lori got the Pfizer vaccine because that's what was offered. I got the Moderna vaccine because that's what was offered. And the day I showed up to get mine, it was the first, I guess, one of the first days that Cabell had the vaccine and taking appointments. And let me tell you, they were coming in the door. The phones are ringing off the hook. So if and when they can get these vaccine administration schedules settled, I think you're going to see a really large number of people who want to be immunized, who are sort of just sitting there and waiting, either saying, I want to get back to my job or I want to get back to life. And I think you'll see less and less objection to it. And some of the studies are saying if we can get about 65% of people immunized, we're going to be good. But if we reach that number, we're still going to be having significant problems. And, you know, all the data we're hearing is both our hospitals are full of COVID patients. So,
Dr. Muffson, what's the percentage of the population that needs to, and I'm going to take the vaccine. I didn't hit the first age group, thankfully. But what's the percentage of people that need to get vaccinated in order to get that herd immunity that we always hear about?
Well, the last statistical analysis I saw of that is about 65% or 70% need to get vaccinated.
No, I'm going to take the vaccine because we kind of live in a bubble. I come to work, I close my door. Thankfully, I work in a hallway that people keep their door closed and it's not busy. My husband goes to work, he closes his door. So we feel a little isolated, I'll be honest. We don't go out much on the weekends. We don't get in crowds. We weren't with family at Christmas or New Year's or Thanksgiving. And we're at the point where we want to get back to living carefully, but I'm thankful for the vaccines. I'm going to take the vaccine. I mean, make no mistake about it. But I did, again, I was in the age group and I don't have an underlying health issue, thankfully. So, but I will take it, absolutely. And so why is there the gap between the first one and the second one? Is there like you have to wait, you get the first shot and you have to wait a few weeks to get the second?
The Pfizer has a 3-week wait and Moderna has a 4-week wait. And that's what they found when they began testing the vaccine in the early phases.
Well, and Dr. Templeton, all your staff, no, you're 50 and over got vaccinated. Now you're waiting for the rest.
Yeah, so all of our 50 plus employees, they've already been vaccinated, and 100% of them went up to Huntington High School last Thursday, I believe, and took the vaccination. The ones below the age of 50, we've all said that we're getting it. I don't know of any faculty member who said they don't want it. We're all 100% in. So we feel absolutely confident that this is the right path that we need to take.
Well, when I had Dr. Muffson and Dr. Tuma both say that they'd be first in line, and I know that Dr. Muffson especially has studied infectious disease his whole career, and I know Dr. Tuma stays up with everything. I felt very, very confident that I would get the vaccine, just hearing them say that. Do we have any other questions or comments?
I have a comment.
Sure.
I'd like to say that the reason St. Joe is working so well is Carol, because I have worked with her very closely about, what was it, 6 years ago, 7 that we were thrown together. I was interim principal out at Fatima for a very short time, thankfully, or the school would probably be gone now. But I was thrown into that. And if it hadn't been for Carol, I never would have made it through it. But we became very close there for a while. And she not only is so well educated, but it's her personality. She's driven. If anybody can make this work, Carol can make it work, because she's not going to let it do anything but work. And so St. Joe, I just have a lot of admiration for everybody down there, but especially Carol, because she is top notch. And I'm sure that it's contagious with her teachers. You can't be around somebody who is so driven and so headed for success and it not rub off. So Carol's really done a wonderful job. I worry about you, Carol, because you've taken on so much down there with the high school. How do you do both sides of the street? Or do you do them from your office over?
You know, I'm getting my steps in. I'm between both buildings a lot. And thank you for your kind words, Linda, thank you. Taking on the high school, I've been the principal there just over a year now, and it needed a lot of changes. But surrounding yourself with good people who share a common mission
That's the secret.
yeah, makes it work. And so, you know, over here, pre-K through 8, I've been here so long, and I feel I have a very solid team. We have a common goal in mind. We want to have an excellent program. I only hire people that I think will prove themselves to be excellent educators. And at the high school, that is what we're building. I will tell you this, at the high school, we've got some fantastic teachers. I'm so blessed to work with Karen Appel, the counselor.
Oh, she's fabulous.
My sister-in-law.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So surrounding yourself with people that want to make it work. So for me, taking on the high school, I think for me, it was a time of my life when I needed another challenge. And so I'm always up for a good challenge.
Yes.
I never stop. I never stop. So for me, it's just making sure I've got comfortable shoes to go back and forth.
Well, it was good. It was good timing because you just finished your doctorate a couple years ago. And so you'd finished the educational part. I know you're always learning. I'm not saying but you achieved a huge goal. And you probably were like, it probably was a huge letdown, like, oh gosh, and then boom. And I hear firsthand how well things are running at the high school. And you do have a good staff over there. I know that. My sister-in-law has been there for a number of years. And she probably could have left years ago and gone to the county, but she loves St. Joe, and she loves her job and the students and all. And so she's probably one of your, and I know she's one of your assets over there for her continuity and her passion for what she does.
She's very much admired. She really is. I think when blue and gold runs through your blood,
Yeah.
You've got a good team. So it's been hard work at the high school, but it's been very rewarding, and we're slowly building more on our programming. So it's exciting. It really is to be able to build something up and to work with a faculty that's also very driven, and they want what's best for their kids as well. And some of them could leave and find a higher paying job somewhere else, but they don't, because they're so committed to St. Joe. We all are.
Do we have any other questions or comments about today's topic or anything else that might relate to today's topic? Any other last words of wisdom, Dr. Templeton, before you leave us?
Go get vaccinated.
Yes. I think that's paramount.
I want to thank you all for inviting me to talk a little bit today. Hope I didn't bore you, but that's just a little insight into a journey in the world of education, and it's still unfolding. But we're going to get through it.
I think we're all doing a good job just in general. I know our group has done a good job of staying safe and healthy. And like I said, I'm confident when my daughter goes to school that she's in a good environment. I've always felt that. But with the pandemic, I know it's fluid. Like I said, there's some families that come and go because they may be exposed, and they do what they need to do and they come back. And so she's thankful, and we're thankful. And I hope that every child can get back to school and be as safe and healthy as the children of St. Joe. I really do. Absolutely. I pray for it daily.
Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. This has been wonderful.
It's good to see everyone this morning, and we'll get together again soon. I'll be in touch.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you so again, Dr. Templeton.
Thank you, Carol.